Inside Out is a movie franchise that took everyone by surprise because we never thought Pixar would answer the question, what if emotions had emotions? Since the second movie followed a more mature moment in Riley's life, what would the next film be like with her even more grown up? It's pretty obvious that if Inside Out 3 is ever made, the next stage should feature Riley as a young adult, around her 20s. With that comes several new opportunities for society's rites of passage that the character could face, like getting a driver's license, college, a first job, and a first love. Based on that, one of the new emotions could be responsibility. It could be an emotion that works alongside anxiety and fear, often disagreeing with embarrassment and boredom, because now, with her future solely in her own hands, Riley will have to make increasingly difficult decisions that affect both her and whoever she chooses to be part of her future. Responsibility might even come across as a harsh villain at first, but if you think about it, it's an emotion that connects with all the others, not just in the movie, but in real life too. Sometimes a decision that forces us to be responsible makes us sad because we can't do what we want, which forces us to confront the fear of failure. That can trigger anxiety, but ultimately, when we realize we made the right decision, we feel happy. Man, I can totally see a story forming from this, especially because it includes two of the key factors needed to make Inside Out work: the interaction with the other emotions and seeing how this impacts Riley in real time. So, I hope you're up to date with therapy, because it's time to dive deep into Riley's personality and try to imagine what other emotions would emerge in Inside Out 3, right here on Zigzag. A concept that I find very interesting is the idea of one emotion being born from another, or one emotion transforming into a similar one. Using this idea, a new emotion we could see as a counterpoint to responsibility would be stress. We already saw in Inside Out 2 how anxiety can be harmful if allowed to take control, and at the end of the film, the other emotions found a solution, letting anxiety deal only with things Riley can actually handle. A good character journey is one where they undergo some type of transformation in the end, and we see that with Joy in the previous movie, where she learns that all the bad and embarrassing memories are also a part of Riley. Here, we could see anxiety grow and complicate itself due to the lack of control, and then transform into stress, which would become this growing weight and burden for responsibility and the other emotions. Then, at the end, after Riley manages to deal with the main problem in this movie, another transformation could happen, perhaps even an emotional fusion. By being responsible and overcoming her stress, a new emotion could emerge, and that emotion could be autonomy. Of course, this would be a much more adult and mature story, but I think it would be a smart move for the good of the franchise's future, since Riley would be growing alongside the audience. You know what seems hard to do, but is easier than it looks? Subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications in 3 seconds. Type, "I did it" in the comments if you were able to do that, and we'll send you a shout out and a heart on your comment. The next emotion that could appear in Inside Out 3 is disappointment. I really like the idea Neil Gaiman created in Sandman, where the endless, who are kind of like the human version of concepts like dream, death, or delirium, are siblings, especially if we look at the endless who mirror each other, desire, and despair. Here in Inside Out, a similar relationship could exist with some new emotions, while complementing each other, also act as antagonists, since responsibility can't come alone, just as it doesn't in real life. One of the aspects of anxiety could be explored in another emotion related to responsibility, which would be expectation. And since things don't always work out as we hope, and we sometimes have to make the responsible decision to let go of an idea we really wanted because it's better for our future, the third sister emotion in this trio could be disappointment. I keep imagining what this trio would look like. Responsibility could be a woman with her hair tied back and wearing a suit, or she could have the appearance and demeanor of a loving but fair mother. Expectation could be an overly excited child who can't stop talking about how something Riley wants is going to be amazing. And disappointment could be like a preteen emo version of Riley, wearing a black band shirt and black and white striped sleeves. To be responsible And achieve autonomy, a person has to be creative, not just to solve their problems, but also as a hobby and for fun, to relieve stress. This emotion, like most others, could emerge as the movie develops, just like any other story where new characters are introduced along the way. You know, creativity could be that emotion responsible for solving problems in a way that's both logical and fun. There's a quote by Albert Einstein that I really like. Creativity is intelligence having fun. And this emotion could emerge not just to deal with those serious things that would be the responsibility, of responsibility, but also to ease the tension in those serious scenes and bring a lighter tone to Riley herself. Maybe there's a peaceful moment where she uses art to de-stress and starts drawing something, and it makes her feel good, and that good feeling could even be joy. So creativity would be a welcome ally to Joy, who always takes on the role of protagonist inside the control panel. Now, just imagine if Riley is drawing something random, a creature she imagined, and when we see the paper, she sketched Joy herself. Would you cry? I know I would cry. That would be such a beautiful moment. Still within this idea that new emotions can emerge and play big or small roles during the movie, one of these emotions that absolutely cannot be left out, especially at this stage in Riley's life, would be love, or perhaps passion. Even though they go hand in hand, these emotions are quite different from each other. They can even get mixed up in our heads, but passion is much more intense and flashy, while love is the evolution of that. Tying back to the theme of the movie's main emotion, as it's a more responsible version of passion. This would be a movie with the main premise of Riley's growth, and for that reason, her emotions must also evolve as life moves on. Maybe this emotion is responsible for unlocking Riley's big secret from the vault we see in the second movie, and we could even revisit one of Riley's memory islands from the second film, the Mount Crushmore. That's a joke referencing Mount Rushmore, which has the faces of several US presidents carved into the mountain. If you want to keep the conversation going about your favorite cartoons, join our Discord community. But you have to be over 13 to join. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, autonomy could be Riley's great achievement in the movie, which would be the natural evolution after overcoming stress through responsibility. This would be the movie's big victory, and it could also be Joy's personal journey, as she always learns something in these films. Here, she could learn that autonomy is essential for Riley's well-being, since Joy is always somewhat resistant to the idea of other emotions stepping in to take control of the panel instead of her. Autonomy could mean Joy accepting that she isn't always the main emotion that should take control of Riley. As we saw in the second movie, Joy herself was responsible for getting Riley into trouble. Like in the scene where the hockey coach takes everyone's phones because Joy went overboard while Riley was having fun with her friends. Why should autonomy be such an important emotion to emerge in this movie? Well, because of the main negative emotion that eventually every human being has to deal with. Grief is something inevitable. Eventually, you'll lose a pet, a loved one, or a friend, or you'll be confronted with the feeling when you see someone close to you dealing with it firsthand. Grief could be the big villain of this movie, that looming threat all the emotions try to confront and push away, but must ultimately learn to live with, because loss is also a part of life. I'm not sure if Riley's parents are such important characters that we'd feel the weight of losing one of them, but this movie could be the chance for them to do something like that. Precisely, the loss of one of the parents could be the cause of all that stress, expectation, and disappointment that responsibility will have to take control of to deal with, since Joy wouldn't be able to handle it. One of the scrapped ideas from the second movie was the concept of broken joy, where Riley rejects the commands given by Joy at the control panel, and Joy blinks and kind of loses her glow. They could easily fit that concept here, acting accordingly and evolving as responsibility and creativity join forces with the other emotions to defeat stress and grief, and finally, achieve autonomy. I think this concept would make for a great movie, one that would leave everyone leaving the theater crying and sniffling.